Welcome to episode 80 of the Sports Geek podcast. And we're returning to SportsConf to talk about the rise of millennials with this very special replay of our Google Hangout panel at this special online conference.
Welcome to the Sports Geek podcast, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals. And now, here's your host, who crafts most of these intros in airport lounges, Sean Callanan.
Thanks very much, DJ Joel. That's right. I have been crafting those kind of intros at airport lounges, and I have been doing so this week, doing a lot of travel. I was up in Sydney earlier this week, working with the A-League and the membership and ticketing guys at A-League. Had a real good couple of days there. This podcast was recorded earlier today, 7:30 this morning, and very thankful that the guys behind the conference, the SportsConf, if you haven't been following the hashtag SportsConf over the last couple of days, I highly suggest you go back, check it out. But really what you should be doing is going to hashtag sportsconf.com and watching the replays of all of these panels that Steve Cobb and Anthony Caponte put together. They're the guys behind hashtag sports. Again, it's a great newsletter. If you don't get the hashtag sports daily email, you're really missing out. Shares a lot of great content. I'm always opening up and reading and finding great sports, biz, digital, and marketing content in that email. I was lucky enough to host a panel, as I did last year in the inaugural SportsConf. That was way back in episode 33, so we've come a long way since that. This particular hangout and this panel discussion was all about the rise of the millennials. How do we get them? How do we attract them? How do we engage them? And what is different about them? So I'm not going to talk about what the panel is just then, but please go back and check out hashtag sportsconf.com. I'm looking forward to catching up with Steve and Anthony once they've had a bit of sleep. I sent them an email and used the hashtag from Tennis Australia, Sleep is for the Week, running a 2-day online conference. I know the boys are deservedly having a beer right now. So thanks to them, and I'm looking forward to catching up with them on the podcast to recap how the conference went in maybe a week or two when they have recovered. But here is my panel discussion on the rise of the millennials. Hello and welcome to another panel here at the SportsConf. Make sure you keep sending in those tweets on @SportsConf. My name is Sean Callanan from Sports Geek. I'm here with a great panel, and we are going to talk about the rise of the millennials and best practices for engaging today's fans in the feed. So first, what I want to do is introduce the panel and get stuck into the discussion. I'm stumbling a little bit. It is 7:30 in the morning here in Melbourne, Australia, and so I'm just getting started. But we will get going. First of all, I want to introduce Jane Busman-Wise from NYCFC. Jane, welcome to hashtag Sports, the Hangout.
Thank you very much. Excited to be a part of it.
And we've also got Cash Rizagi from FanCred. Welcome to SportsConf. Cash, you there? And this is the beauty of live hangouts. Either Cash is really, really still and just waiting for his moment, but he will be back soon. Kevin Desejo from Fieldhouse, welcome to the chat.
Thank you. Excited to get started with you guys.
And Patrick Cassidy from New Balance, welcome to the hangout.
How you doing? Glad to be here.
And last but not least, Valerie De La Rosa from Stumble Upon, welcome aboard.
Thanks for having me.
So what we want to discuss here, and hopefully Cash will be back soon. We all know there's always something technical goes wrong when you run these things. I'm sure Anthony and Steve will have him back in no time. I'll quickly run down what the panel discussion is, and then I want to dive into what you do in all your roles and how we attract, engage the millennial fan. It really is the holy grail of digital fans, and everyone seems to be chasing them down at the moment. So today's sports fan consumes. Cash, are you back? Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. As we were just saying, you obviously did not make the sacrifice to the demonstration gods before this. All four of us all did that. You should know that. You would have done enough demos with FanCred to know that you've got to make those sacrifices. So welcome back.
I appreciate that. Sorry about that. Technical difficulty.
That's okay. That's okay. And don't forget, everyone's Twitter handles are on the screen when they come up. So please, if you've got a question, we're watching the tweets come in, and if anyone's got a question, I'll do my best to throw it to the group. So we're talking about the fact that millennials are consuming content through mobile, social, chat, all these channels. It's complex. We've got platforms that are constantly tweaking their algorithms and the way that they serve content, and the way that it's viewed on all these different platforms. And so, well, it's good here. We can talk about, with Jane around what it is from a team point of view to be engaged with those fans on those platforms, and the goals around pulling them back to your site, to Cash, who's driving a platform that's around millennials and how it's working with teams and those kind of things, and how those fans are engaging there. Kevin's always working with the student athlete around that, and understanding how they're using it and how students are gravitating to these new platforms. And then it'd be really good to hear from Valerie around how Stumble Upon is seeing the content moving and how millennials are using it. And then it'd be really good to get from Patrick that brand perspective and what brands are doing in the space and what they've learned from it. So first of all, I want to open it up with you, Jane. In your new role at NYCFC, and coming from your experience at the Nets, what are the challenges for you to try to attract millennials, and also when you are starting up a new franchise?
Yeah, no, thank you. So I came on board here in around November, and I think really for us the key focus, our first game is March 8th, first home opener March 15th. So for us, it's how do we build a franchise? How do we build a fan base? How do we engage millennial fans, which we know are sort of a core key demo for MLS? And to your point, it's really looking at the types of content that we can put out there, distributing it on the right platforms. So we are where our fans are, so we're on, all the social platforms. We launched Snapchat a couple weeks ago, and it has a very different tone, and there's different content there than you'll find on Facebook, which is different than Instagram and Twitter, and it's kind of a juggle between all of them. And to your point, we really want to push people back to the website, but at the same time, if they're not coming to our site, we want to engage them because we're a nascent brand, we're so new. We need to build that fan base, and it really starts with engagement for us, and that's kind of our key metric that we look at day in and day out.
It is a challenge, and it's probably a good question to drive across to Cash, in that you're saying you want to engage them on the platforms they're on, but you've also got this goal. You've got these KPIs of getting them back to your site. Cash, your app FanCred, and you've got fans engaging and playing on that app. How do you, as an app builder, sort of get that balance for providing value for your user base, but then also providing value for partners in what they want to do?
Sure. I appreciate the question. I think it may make sense for me just quickly explain what it is we do at FanCred. So FanCred, we're a startup based out of Boston, Mass. We've been around for 2 years, and our mission is to build the world's largest fan network. And really what that means to us is that we're starting with the fan, and fans are joining FanCred to create personal profiles for themselves. We have this belief that for fans, being a fan is much more than liking a team. It becomes part of their cultural, social, economic fabric of who they are, part of their identity. And so we're building a platform that allows them to create unique profiles for themselves that captures essentially the things they do as fans, the games they attend, the games they watch, the people they're with, their behaviors, their habits, that begins to really form their identity. And as you continue to build out this network of the sports ecosystem, it's not just fans, right? It's teams, it's brands, it's content providers, and what do profiles for those people look like? And in essence, we're trying to bring to the digital world what currently exists offline in terms of how fans engage with teams and how fans engage with brands, and the right balance of that. And so from my perspective, in terms of how we're building FanCred, the balance really exists to where brands and teams add value to the fans that are most passionate about them, and not forcing it. Providing profiles for these teams and these brands to be able to better engage, to be able to better reach and understand who their fans are, to add value to their lives. And once that hits a harmony, I believe I don't think there's a magic science to it as much as it is an art in terms of when it hits harmony.
Thanks a lot for that, Cash. Kevin, I wanted to ask you, sort of working in the space with student athletes and seeing that university scene, and what Cash was saying there about how fans are sharing their identity. Like, what kind of insights are you seeing from those fans in that they're driving to these new platforms like Yik Yak and things like that, and they're just starting to decide where they want to be?
Yeah, I think on some level, they're running away not just from mom and dad, but maybe on some level they're also running away from brands. And they like a team. Maybe they like a team on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever platforms. We're doing research right now, a survey on student athletes, started about a week and a half ago. So far, about 1,000 responses, and not that student athletes are the same as every other college student, but we're seeing a lot of them are following brands on heavily on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. They're not really jumping to other platforms to follow teams yet, and I think what a team or a brand really wants to do, and what Cash hit on, is you're wanting to create a community where there's conversation taking place around your team, around your brand, and you want to be a part of that conversation. And you want to have this audience feel as though they're a part of the conversation. They want to feel value. They want to feel heard. They want to feel known. They want to feel like they're a part of your story. So you have to find unique ways to connect with them. I love what Cash said. It's not a science. It's more of an art when that comes together.
Patrick, I wanted to ask you around, from a brand point of view, and what you've learned at New Balance, sort of trying to get into this field, and we're having a bit of backwards and forwards in setting this up. And you were talking about the importance of listening and really stepping back and not really forcing that broadcast. Hey, look at us, look at what we're doing. You want to talk a little bit about what you've noticed in that space?
Sure, absolutely. So I think obviously the first thing is that every brand is different. Coming into this, and I've only been here at New Balance about a year and a half. What I found, and it makes total sense when you look at everything, why you would follow certain brands. There's one end of the spectrum is brands that would give you deals or functional things. At the other end of the spectrum is things that you would literally get tattooed on your body, your favorite teams, your favorite bands. And you want different things from that. And what I've seen, specifically with New Balance, is that we're much closer to bands and teams than we are to coupons and things like that, which is great. We're not at that point, but I know that that's true for our specific situation, because every single day seeing people tagging New Balance, talking about New Balance, sharing pictures of them doing amazing things in their New Balance apparel and footwear, running to the tops of mountains, personal bests in races, perfect outfits with New Balance lifestyle products. So that's happening in mass every day. So it was pretty clear, looking at what kind of came into, we weren't listening to what people wanted from us. It was very, very, very sales heavy. Here's a product, buy it. Here's a product, buy it. Here's a product, buy it. Let's talk about ourselves. And it was, the realization came with a couple big hits, but it's not what we want to talk about in these walls in our office in Boston. It's what's happening out there is way more important. And as soon as we shifted kind of what we were doing to focus on these people who want to be part of this community and engaging with them and giving them a platform to share their successes, as soon as that happened, our engagement for us went through the roof. And it was, now it's, you won't see on our, for the most part, on our things, that content that we're putting out there, you won't see quote unquote brand marketing stuff. The highly stylized images of runners in perfect matching coordinated outfits running in places perfectly lit, is people who would never talk to each other, let alone hang out and then go running together. You see the vast majority of it is giving people what they want in terms of information or more authentic imagery and videos, and a lot of user-generated stuff, engaging with people, making them feel like this community is what has really propelled us forward. And our engagement is blown away what it used to be when it was buy this now, buy this now, buy it now. So we learned a couple hard lessons. I learned a couple hard lessons early on of not listening, thinking we know what's best and we know what we want to push. And when you listen to people, when you listen to what they want and what they react to and what they want, where they want it and when they want it, that's when the ship really started to move for us.
Yeah, I think there's a really big opportunity in platforms like Instagram where you'll see New Balance runners. They've gone and run around the lake or they've done their circuit, and they're going to take that shot and share it. And so you're leaving so much content out there if you're not embracing that. And so there's so much option from a brand point of view.
It's tapping into like human reactions. Everybody knows how great it feels to crack open a box of a new pair of sneakers in them. Like, that's a great feeling, and so that's literally become part of our content stream. Like, this person just opened their first pair of New Balances in Belgium, and they took a picture of it, and now we're going to share it with the world. Everybody knows what that feeling is like, and people rally around that. And we're not telling them what they want; we're giving them what they want.
Cash, you had your hand up there. You're seeing that kind of content shared.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think just to piggyback off that a little bit, I mean, what we've seen on FanCred, I mean, I think if you look at our user base, we're still upwards of 90% fan focused. We do have a few brands, a few teams on FanCred. But if you look at on FanCred, or even if you look across all social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, it feels like the brands that are really doing well, that are really getting engagements, are not the ones that are pushing buy, like you mentioned, but are the ones that have an authentic voice. The ones that are sharing behind the scenes, the ones that are interacting with fans, the ones that provide a different point of view. It's when a team talks trash to another team, or when a brand talks trash to another brand, that gives them a sense of personality that consumers don't generally see. And so I think the brands that do the best are the ones that are playing the long game, not the ones that are trying to monetize tomorrow, the ones that are trying to build brand awareness, build community, build an engagement with their fan base to tie back to monetization eventually, but not necessarily I'm going to get on FanCred to make money, or I'm going to get on Twitter to make money. I'm going to get on FanCred to insert myself into the ecosystem and have people aware of who I am and have people aware of my brand. So one day I can monetize. But when I do monetize, it'll be worth a whole lot more than a cheap monetization scheme now, when with them ending up leaving soon after. So my perspective is an authentic voice matters so much more than anything else.
Yeah, Cash, I completely agree. I think it's very close to what Gary Vaynerchuk sort of says with the whole jab, 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 right hook. And all of these platforms that the millennials are now on, they want all of these jabs. They want all of these jabs. And it's just got to be, you've got to give little bits of the story, all that kind of stuff. And eventually the right hook will come. But it's these platforms that they're on aren't really right hook friendly. You just want to build up that story, build up that relationship. Valerie, I want to talk to you about Stumble Upon and where you're seeing millennials moving to, because there's so much content that's grown. There's so many platforms that have grown. There's so many different sources. Like how are fans now and millennials overall finding content, and what type of content are you seeing that they're being drawn to?
Sure. For you, those of you who aren't familiar with Stumble Upon, we're essentially an entertainment platform. And within that, we're kind of two things, depending on whether you're coming to us as a fan, as a consumer. We're really a content discovery platform. And then for brands and publishers, we're your content distribution platform for you to get that content to those fans. So one of the few companies that do that send traffic to websites, as well as for these brands and publishers that want to know more about these fans. We also have first-party registration data, which includes their age, their gender, their location, what type of interests are they stumbling on Stumble Upon, as well as what kind of device they're using. And so from that, what we're really seeing, and what you really need to know about millennials, especially I am a millennial, is that this generation is suffering from content fatigue. There's definitely no lack of content. And when you open, and brands and publishers specifically, are losing their identity on these platforms to try to game the algorithm. I think we all know kind of which one I'm referring to without calling it out exactly. We all know this game.
Hello, Mr. Zuckerberg, if you're watching.
And, and so that's why we're having to try all these different emerging platforms. And on StumbleUpon, as a brand or publisher trying to reach these fans, you have an opportunity to be part of this surprise and delight that is the essence of our platform. By having a fan stumble upon your content maybe unexpectedly. And my job in two-part is, so not only, so I'm the head of social for StumbleUpon, so I also kind of sit in everyone's seat in that I run all of our, oversee the strategy for all of our social channels. So I too am playing that same game with the algorithms and whatnot, and what's been a success and for what kind of content millennials want. And I think, Patrick, you kind of touched upon this about emotion, is kind of take a step back and what is your content segmentation strategy? What are the three buckets, or what are the buckets that you're kind of filtering all of your content through? Some of ours include an emotional gift. So is this going to give someone the emotional gift of wonder? Is it an article about, and let's go back, this being about sports, is it an article about, this group of NBA players that has never dunked a basketball before? Oh, I never thought about that. How can you kind of answer that, kind of provide those answers for your fans about things they never thought about and that are not the, trending topic that's being shown by eight different publishers in their newsfeed, because what's going to make them want to click on your content?
So one thing I wanted to ask, and this is really to the whole panel, as far as sort of where they're trying to find, and I really like what Valerie said around getting your content strategy and your segmentation of your content strategy in. You nearly need a content strategy for each platform, because you can't just do the approach. Even 5 years ago, if we've got a piece of content, we're putting it on every platform. We've got all these platforms that are now different, and you've got to provide content specifically for those platforms so the fans want it. I guess, Jane, I want to go to you and sort of talk about, what you're doing in the MLS and some of the different strategies you're using. You just said you opened up Snapchat and using different platforms. Is there specific content that you're putting on those platforms because that's the kind of content they want? And then how do you get back to your original goal, which is getting them back to your site, getting them to platforms where you can have a longer form conversation, and then that end game of getting them to a game, which is primarily your goal.
Yeah. So I think we kind of look at each platform differently and specifically. So we're looking at the type of content that resonates on them. I think kind of to what the fans would like, and noticing that what you post on Vine is very different than what's really doing well on Instagram, and the types of fans on them are different. They're looking for different things, because we don't want to take that one piece of content and just put it across every platform. So we're really conscious of that. And I think, the goal is to get back to the site a lot of the time, but not all of the time. So sometimes it is just to watch that video, and it's going to do really well on the Facebook feed, and that's our goal there. Sometimes it is to drive email acquisition so that we can bring people in and have a longer conversation, have a bigger relationship. Ultimately, we are in the business of wanting people to come to our games, to buy tickets, to buy our merchandise. That is the product. But, for us, we've got fans around the world, and the opportunity is so much bigger than just our 34 games. So we're really conscious of that, and we treat each platform, each digital social platform differently. So that's really for us. We look at the goals, we look at the engagement. I think to some of the earlier points, we monitor as we go. And as the algorithm changes, as the platforms change, we have to adjust with them. And we really think about is how does our content different than what an ESPN FC or MLS Soccer, what other platforms put out there. So, to the earlier points, it's the behind the scenes, it's the exclusive content, it's, giving our players cameras to shoot a tour diary, those really interesting things, so that you get to know our players, and that's why you root for them and you root for us.
Kevin, I wanted to come to you on the player aspect, because especially in the student athlete space, you've got these players that are coming up. They're using these platforms natively, like they're using Snapchat and platforms like that. Jane will get lots of power and lots of connection with fans via the athletes. we're going to see it in the next 5 years. We're going to see these athletes that are using these platforms quite savvy, natively, that kind of thing. What are you seeing in the NCAA space on how athletes are using it and how that flow-on effect is helping the teams involved?
Yeah, I think with most of this, there's more power for the individual than there is for the brand, and there is for the team. And so we're going to connect to a person in a much more powerful way generally than we're going to connect to a team. And so if we can bring in the faces of those players and give us a better way to connect with the actual people on the team. So maybe that's a student athlete taking over an account, whether it's Twitter or Facebook, or doing a Q&A, doing a behind the scenes, a day in the life of a student athlete. Because they're spending time on all these platforms. We 5, 6, 7 platforms, they're spending a significant amount of time every day on them. And so they understand kind of the ins and outs. They have a unique voice, and they are a significant part of that story of each team, of each athletic department. And one of the things when we're working with the athletic departments on a strategy, so look, you've got 500 stories taking place every single day all over your campus in terms of your student athletes. How can we leverage that? How can we take advantage of that? And so that's not just from the brand account, but empowering your student athletes to use it well, saying, hey, you've got a unique perspective. We can use that as a recruiting tool. We can use that as a fan engagement tool. We can use it as awareness, all these different things, if they just tap into it. And so some schools are starting to get that slowly, and there's been some hesitancy from the college side of, if we promote these athletes, what about when they mess up on their own accounts? If we promote the wrong person. And so they're having to be careful with that, but fans typically respond, especially the millennial fan. Like, they're going to see past all the buy stuff. They want authenticity. They want an emotional connection. You have to find a way to relate and add value to their day and solve a problem for them. And a great way to do that is with the personal stories of your players.
Cash, you would be seeing this, on FanCred. It's always the way when there's a new platform coming that you will get these influencers, these people that just love the platform, that are super engaging, and they become these early adopters and become influential in your platform because they've figured out the platform to a certain degree, but they're also doing that storytelling stuff that Kevin was talking about. And if it's a player, then it's great, but you'll also just get these people, and you can see them on Instagram, whether it's I know there was a 23-year-old fitness trainer in Australia that just recently ran boot camps across the eastern seaboard, and she had 800 women turn up at 7 o'clock in the morning because she has 2.1 million Instagram followers. Because she's using the platform right. There's these micro influencers that have massive influence on each platform. Are you starting to see those kind of influencers rise up in FanCred?
Yeah, totally. And I think this is a side point to what we earlier touched on in terms of the type of content that brands or influencers are sharing on each of these different platforms. To me, what I've seen, it's not as much about, I'm going to share this type of content on one platform and this type of content on another platform. It's more about what type of personality do we want to have on each different platform. And if you understand the personality you want to have on these platforms that are unique to that platform, that will ultimately drive the type of content you decide to push out. So 2 quick examples about some of the partners that we have at FanCred. One is Mashable. Mashable is on FanCred, and they're certainly a very broad publication. I mean, they talk about other things outside of sports, but they do have a nice sports business as well, and they're publishing sports content a lot. On FanCred, they are certainly linking to their stories. They are certainly trying to drive traffic and click-through back to their website. But generally speaking, they're posting GIFs and images and celebrating birthdays for famous athletes. They're interacting with people on a one-on-one basis on subjects like a trade deadline. And that's their personality on FanCred. Another partner that we have is the America East Conference. Obviously one of the smaller conferences, but in terms of sheer talent and in terms of sheer passion, really a great conference. They're using FanCred to get their name brand and get their athletes more exposure to a national audience. So instead of posting posts that are specific to any individual school, they'll post a great play that happened at a school that maybe any fan across the country would enjoy seeing. And so the types of posts and content that they're sharing is really based on the personality they want to have, and that's the type of engagement that they get. That's the type of following that they're able to garner for themselves based on the personality that they portray on FanCred.
Valerie, I wanted to ask you around the different types of content that you're seeing that are getting liked and sharing that, because you're getting, not only are you seeing, serving up this content, but you're sort of seeing what people are liking. Is there any particular thing that millennials are going to, whether it be short form or long form or photos and video? Is there that kind of, can you start seeing where the content trends are going?
Sure. One particularly funny content trend that we've seen here at StumbleUpon is that we're actually based on our data that hamsters are actually replacing cats as like the animal of the internet based on our data. So you heard it here first.
Mind blown.
We've just actually, seen that in our data that there are more content around hamsters, whether it's the tiny hamsters, videos that come out around the different occasions like Thanksgiving or eating tiny burritos. You have to think about when you think about trending content, you need to think about, why something goes viral. It's because it's the unexpected. Really the stock market of viral content, it really fluctuates according to how much social currency we give to the current trending topic of the moment. Whether that's Left Shark during the Super Bowl or Prince during the Grammys, for example. But the two things you really need to think about is that it's a privilege for any of us as brands to be in our consumers' feeds, whether that's on Snapchat, whether that's on Twitter, et cetera. And going back again to a little bit of what Patrick said, is the idea that brands really want, and it kind of all goes back to this thing about social currency. Consumers look to brands for two things, either free stuff or social currency. And so what kind of social currency can you provide to them in, whether it's in real time and providing a GIF of a funny moment that happened, or that access, that behind the scenes access that Jane kind of talked about, is how can you equip them with social currency? Because when it all comes back down to it, especially for millennials, is that we share to belong. It goes back to like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So we share to belong within our different groups on these different platforms. And so whether that's what is trending, on StumbleUpon, evergreen content does really well on our platform. And so you have to think about kind of these second and third cycles of virality for this group of millennials that maybe 8 to 10 years ago, a piece of content that suddenly reemerges on a platform like Reddit and StumbleUpon then has a second cycle of virality.
Thank you very much. Patrick, I want to ask you, especially around what we're seeing millennials really engage with full experiences and activations where they want to be part of something bigger. And it's obviously something that sports teams are looking to do from a match day experience, but we're seeing things like Tough Mudder and marathons and fun runs, and where brands are jumping in, but people just want to be part of something bigger, and it's really all driven by the mobile. What are you seeing in that space, with things like fun runs and marathons and those kind of things, where that they just feel compelled to take that photo, whether it's halfway through the run or at the finish line or at the start line? There's just so much content coming out of that because they want to be part of this shared experience.
Sure, yeah. And we're a company that has a lot of events around the world, many global marathons down to high school track events. And a philosophy that I brought from my previous career when I had a digital marketing and events agency was I'm trying to apply it here to what we're doing. And to be honest, have not completely unlocked the answer yet, but it's obviously at the event, everybody who engages in that event, it has to be an amazing experience. But then what are the layers that you add to make it meaningful and impactful and inclusive for the potential millions of people who are going to share by extensions of people tweeting and posting photos, and who are there, and how does that spread? Again, I had referenced before about learning some hard lessons. There are certain properties that we have, events that we've gone too far in on and have paid the price. I have no problem talking about, last year we had one of our prime high school track events. For the weekend, we went all in on Instagram. I mean, by all in, not going crazy. We had something like 8 posts throughout the weekend, but that was kind of it. And it was amazing for the kids who were there, who were sharing out pictures and were being featured in these photos. But on Instagram, when it was a case of not listening to really what our audience wanted, which is a predominantly global lifestyle community, by the end of that weekend, we had lost on one day we lost over 900 followers because they were like, this is not what I am here for. This is not what I signed up for. I want to see cool lifestyle sneakers. I want to see people doing cool stuff in cool lifestyle sneakers. And something that's meaningful to everybody. They were just not in on that. So it's on us to figure out with each of these events what is meaningful to people and how do we tell that story globally. So we have these amazing marathons. What is meaningful about the Rome Marathon? It's what ended up working. Not just the people, not just sharing what people were posting in the route, but it runs right by the Coliseum. It runs right through the most amazing parts of the city. We were able to share some of those images, and that's amazing. That's an inspiring photo. We have right in our backyard the Boston Marathon. What is meaningful? What can we share with the world? Not just how do we activate locally, because we have tons of stuff that we do locally, expos and driving people to our stores and great interaction with our brand. But what do we do that's helping to make people feel inclusive around the world? Last year all eyes were on Boston for that. We rallied around a Love Boston hashtag to try to make it not so much about Boston, but the idea that Boston was representing, where it was you can go and you can run and you can compete and take part in these amazing races and push your own personal limits without having to be afraid. And that is something that everybody seems to understand, get that feeling, as opposed to I am running in this neighborhood in Boston, because that doesn't mean anything to anyone, someone in England, to someone in Russia, to someone in China. But so our content outside of what was happening on the ground was how do we make that more forward facing so that people, I get that emotion that yes, I want to run. This is what Love Boston means to me, the freedom to run and do what you want to do. So it really is for us, how do we engage with people on the phone and how do we deliver those messages and content that are meaningful to them and not playing, kind of inside baseball with New Balance. And this is what we're telling you is important. So how do we make that something that everybody can get, whether they are there on the ground or if they are thousands of miles away?
Thank you very much, Coach. You've got a question from Jonathan Levitt via Twitter. What organisations are you guys seeing doing a great job of building community via social or in person, but really to connect with this demographic? I can talk from experience with the recent Asian Cup here in Australia. There was a lot of work done to connect with the community, both from a digital point of view, but also at the in-person stuff that Jonathan just asked there. Going out and reaching with the different communities that followed the different teams that were coming in were one of the key success. They went out and connected with the different Asian communities that were going to be part of the tournament and made them feel value, and then brought them into the digital side. It wasn't really just a specific digital play, so it was really that offline and online. Anyone else got an opinion on an organisation doing a great job building a community?
I think Adidas is doing a good job with some of their recent campaigns. I think the MLS overall, reaching millennials, does a fantastic job. Probably one of the better sports organizations. And the Pac-12 had a campaign called Back the Pack. You can Google it. There's a couple blog posts written. But Justin Karp and the Pac-12 network, they do an incredible job of rallying their millennials.
So what I want to do, because I'm just pressed for time, I know that we've got to wrap this thing up. I want to just sort of go through the panel and just give a little bit, a small sample or something that either you've seen out there. And one of the greatest things we can do in this sort of sports digital space is see what someone else does. And I don't like saying stealing it. It's like be inspired by it is the way that I would say, and then putting your own tweak on it. So just quickly go through the list. We'll start with you, Cash. What sort of campaign, or at least even a content piece, you've seen that's really hit the mark with millennials?
Yeah, I like to look at things more thematically and figure out what the trend is there, and then tactics really fall into that. And thematically, what I've seen in terms of campaigns that have been quite successful are the campaigns that make the campaign more about the consumer versus themselves. And so I'm not necessarily sure it's necessarily a sports brand, but certainly it was appealing to millennials. The one that really I noticed take off this past year was Coke's Share a Coke With campaign. It's a campaign that's designed to tell you, to allow you to share with the world who you're sharing a Coke with and have their name on a bottle. And if you ever looked at their Twitter's mentions, it was just crazy in terms of how people were tweeting this over and over again.
That campaign actually started in Australia a couple of years ago, and it's now rolled out around the world. What about yourself, Jane?
Yeah, I mean, it's we've been so focused on everything that we're doing, and for me, looking across the league and what MLS has been doing and the groundwork that they've laid. I think for me, I look a lot at what Seattle has done and the Sounders and how they've been able to build such a strong, passionate fan base in that city and the environment that they've created. That I think for us, they're certainly a one that we look to within MLS as a leader. And really building that digital and physical sort of fan base and passion and it's a really engaged audience. So that's one that, at least in my world, that I'm kind of looking to quite a bit.
And Valerie, you've already given us that hamsters are big. Hamsters are bigger than cats. But now you're going to have to take mute off. What's the other piece of hot content that you're seeing that's just you're seeing a bit of a theme that's going a little bit viral lately?
I think it's really something about the unexpected or whether it's a piece of content from a Japanese news website that says like what the shape of your fingernails actually says about you. It's something that everyone has that everyone can compare. Or it's taking the unexpected in a really popular piece of content on one of our social channels was about an artist illustrating famous movie titles and by removing one letter. So a movie like RoboCop the artist would then illustrate a robot playing an OboCop. And for some reason, millennials just ate that up, and we targeted to a very specific age audience on that. And again, it's taking things that are known and giving a twist is really kind of the theme. Something that seems very obvious.
Yeah. Patrick, the sneaker freak community is, wide and passionate. I'm sure you've seen a piece of content that's, flown by your desk as far as, you're monitoring that you've just gone, wow, if I'd have briefed someone to do that, it would be, I would have loved to have taken credit. What type of content have you seen from that usage, from your community, from your customers that you've just gone, wow, that's really hit the mark with everybody?
Sure, specifically in that sneaker community?
Anywhere in that space that you've seen the content that's flowing through.
Sure. Well, to be honest, the amazing thing in that sneaker-specific community that I am trying to build a sort of a mirror system here is, the awesome power of the rise of the iPhone photography. I come from a background where I had a magazine for a decade, and so much of it was so much of our research was poured into photography and equipment and things like that. And now there is this rising tide of young Instagram monsters who are just they can capture the quality and the craftsmanship and the specific angles and the details of these lifestyle sneakers in certain ways that kids are doing this, and they are amassing massive followings. People who are there just to see this art that they are creating, and how it started. And it's what I've seen is the rise has been very fast. If you just look in the last 8 to 12 months, how it's changed from it for a while. It was the amazing artistry of people with the perfect iPhone shot of the angles of lifestyle shoes, and then it has morphed into crazy things like shoes coming out of puddles and how the water drips off it, to the shots that we're all seeing now of people who are dangling feet over skyscrapers or out of blimps or out of helicopters. And it's all super creative kids with their iPhones. And if they step up a little bit with the equipment, but it's a one-upsmanship culture. And it's like, man, the days of us or big brands locking in and shelling out tons of money for these massive photo shoots, they're going extinct pretty quickly, because it's time to invest in what is impacting that target demo that everybody wants: the younger, faster, better, hipper.
Definitely. I mean, and I was talking before about looking at what teams are doing for inspiration and stealing it. But, what you just said then, if you're trying to look for what's the new hot trend and, we all get the brief, give me the viral video, give me the viral content, go out and find the content that is viral and be inspired by that. So if you're seeing your fans take particular shots of your stadium that's going bananas on whatever platform, it's like, we'll be inspired by that, provide content in that style. And, Instagram is a great one for that, because, they're very visual, a very visual fan. They want to be sharing that kind of stuff. Kevin, last but not least, we need to wrap this up. What's a content piece or a campaign that you've seen either from a team or a league or even from a fan that you're seeing that millennial fans are rallying around?
Yeah, I'm loving right now, and not to talk about another shoe brand, but they're kind of a different market with Adidas and what they're doing with their Take It campaign. I was just reading an article. It was the most viral video last week, 17 million views, more than double what the second top video of the week got. And so I love the message that they're sending out with that. They've got a couple campaigns that they've launched recently, again, going at the millennial fan, the millennial athlete specifically. And I think they are tapping into some powerful storytelling right now.
Well, thank you very much to my panel. I'm getting the wind up signal from Anthony and Steve back at hashtag Sports, and I know everyone who's listening right now would definitely be getting the hashtag Sports newsletter. It's a great resource. Thank you very much to my panel, Jane from NYCFC. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cash from FanCred. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Valerie from Stumble Upon, thank you.
Thank you.
Patrick from New Balance.
Thank you
very much. And Kevin from Fieldhouse, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks, guys. Enjoyed it.
And don't forget, you can go to the speaker page, connect with everybody who's been on this panel and all the speakers. Please connect with us and fire the questions via Twitter. My Twitter handle is at Sean Callanan or at Sports Geek. And you can listen to more on my podcast, the Sports Geek Podcast, if you want any more. And that's it from us. There will be another panel coming up very shortly. So stay tuned in for the Sports Conf, and let's please continue the conversation on Twitter.
Sign up for the Sports Geek News at sportsgeekhq.com/SGN. Thanks again to Steve Cobb and Anthony Caponti. I hope I'm saying that right, Anthony. I'm looking forward to catching up with them and getting them on the podcast to talk about what they're doing. As I said, sign up for the hashtag Sports email. It's a great email. And thanks again to my panel, Jane from NYCFC, Patrick from New Balance, Valerie from Stumble Upon, Cash from FanCred, and Kevin from Fieldhouse. I'll have the links in the show notes for this episode. It'll be sportsgeekhq.com/80. But as I said, if you go to hashtag sportsconf.com, you can watch replays of all of those panels over the 2 days. I know I'll be having them playing in the background as I'm working away on things at Sports Geek HQ. And thanks again for Steve and Anthony for allowing me to put the replay on Sports Geek Podcast, because I will have the links in the show notes for the replay of the video. It's on YouTube on the hashtag Sports YouTube channel. But like yourselves, I'm one that consumes a lot of my content in audio form, and so please check it out. Plenty of speakers on the lineup that the boys put together that have been on the podcast. Guys like Brian Sarabian, Kevin Cote,
and the like, and a very special shout out for another one of the speakers, Aaron LaValle, who was also kind enough to dial in for a call with our A-League conference, and got plenty of great feedback from Aaron on talking about CRM and how they're using it, and data acquisition strategies, ticket sales strategies that they're doing at the LA Kings and the LA Galaxy. So a very special, big thanks to Aaron LaValle there, and you can tune into his panel at the sports, #SportsConf. A couple of things just to wrap up this episode. I wanted to say thank you very much for all who have given an iTunes review. We've recently passed a milestone of 51 iTunes reviews. So thanks to Matt, and thanks to JB198888. That's the only problem I have with iTunes. No one leaves their real name, and there's no way for me to come back and thank you. So if you've left an iTunes review, take a snapshot or send me an email or tell me that you've done it, so I can say thanks. I've now got Sports Geek Podcast stickers, and I'm pretty much promising anyone that leaves me an iTunes review, I promise to buy you a beer when we do eventually meet in real life. So thanks a lot. As I said, send me an email, Sean@sportsgeekhq.com. Love to hear from you and what your feedback is on the podcast at all times. One more thing, on February 28, I'm speaking at the Unconvention in Melbourne. You can get tickets. It's a free event. sportsgeekhq.com/unconvention will get you there. It's run by the guys at The Entourage, Jack Delosa. I've actually interviewed Jack earlier this week. It's going to be on the Beers Blokes Business podcast, talking about his journey in developing an educational business and what he's trying to do around disrupting the educational space. So look out for that in the next Beers Blokes Business episode, or grab a ticket. It should be a great event and learning a lot of stuff from an entrepreneurial point of view. And I'll be talking about, I guess, my entrepreneurial journey as Sports Geek. That's it for this week. Thanks again for tuning in. Thanks again for the iTunes reviews. You can leave one at sportsgeekhq.com/iTunes. It'll take you straight to the page, and you can leave a quick review. Much appreciated. The next goal is obviously 100. And looking forward to catching up with Steve and Anthony in a future podcast to get a full recap of what was the Sports Conf. Until next time, my name is Sean Callanan. You can tweet me at Sean Callanan, and thanks for listening. Cheers.
Like the Sports Geek podcast? Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/sportsgeek. Please leave a review on iTunes. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/iTunes. Did you know Sports Geek Podcast has listeners in over 50 countries? Thank you for sharing. Thank you for listening to the Sports Geek Podcast.